What's up, everybody? This is the Front Door Show brought to you by Four Fantastic with DJ Prieto. And we do this every day, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 9:30 sometimes. We have some interesting stories, interesting feedback, and interesting history going on. So today's my guest is DJ Bobby Martinez. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing very well. So as I post everything that, when people come on my show, I want you to introduce yourself. If you got any websites, tell me who you are. Pretend the people who sign up have no clue who you are. You want them to, give a little background about you, who you are. So shoot.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? My name is DJ Bobby Martinez, and I am a former nightclub and radio DJ from Chicago. My websites, I don't have a personal website just yet. Always going back and forth on one, and always start one and never finish it because I change my mind on things. But my mixes, you can listen to my mixes on SoundCloud, on Mixcloud, and YouTube, all / DJ Bobby Martinez.
Okay, and so you said formally. Okay, so now I'm curious. So what do you mean formally? Because did you stop DJing or something that I don't know?
Yeah. I'm a former nightclub and radio DJ. So basically, I did 22 years nonstop DJing. Weekend after weekend after weekend, month after month, year after year. And about 2 years ago, I just decided that I'm going to step back and focus mainly on my career as a software developer. I have done a couple of events, a couple of private events, and I did a concert. I did the Anything Box concert. But other than that, I'm pretty much former nightclub and radio DJ.
Well, only because and I've heard people say, "I'm going to retire," and then I mean, how many people announced that they retire? But you never announced that you were retiring, right? That wasn't what you did.
No, right? I never announced it. I really didn't want to announce it. It was more, one day I actually, it had been going on for a couple of years where I was pretty much ready. I had been so long, the schedule was pretty brutal. I started DJing nightclubs when I was 17 years old, and I did it for 22 years straight, nonstop, and it was weekend after weekend. It got to a point where at one point I was doing Tuesday through Sunday, nonstop. There were times where I would do 2 to 3 different nightclubs in one night. So it was a definitely grueling schedule, and it got to a point where I said, you know what, I really want to focus on my career as a software developer. And I towards the end I kind of stepped back a little bit, and I did slow down. I slowed down to about 2 to 3 per week, 2 to 3 different events per week. Or I should say 2 to 3 nights per week. And then I just said, you know what, I think this is it's about time that I step back and I just focus on my career, and it's been about 2 years now, and
Okay, all right. So let's start from the beginning. How old are you when you first picked up a turntable, or what's your story of where you started from, or where you lived at, and so forth?
It all started. I think it started when I was a twinkle in my dad's eye, and no, I'm kidding. No, since I was a little kid, my parents, like a lot of us DJs, when you're a little kid, your parents are listening to music, and you just, you're listening to what they're listening to. And it was the same thing with us. My mom and my dad were always playing music. I come from a family where a lot of my cousins, a lot of my uncles, and extended family, they're all either musicians or they're singers and stuff. So, music has been in us, and always listening to music, always jamming out to music. My mom was telling me a story a couple of days ago that when we used to go to Mexico, I was a little kid. I was 3-4 years old, and I would sing along to the cassettes that my dad had, because we would drive all the way to Mexico. So it was like a 2-3 day drive there, and then same thing back, and I would sing the whole way there, the whole way back. And so I was always listening to music. And
So was this, what kind of music were you singing to, the cassettes? What
Mexican.
was that?
It was mainly Mexican music, mainly Mexican
Okay,
music. A lot of cumbias, a lot of norteñas, a lot of baladas, guapango, which is my dad is really big into. Um, so it was just always music. And when I got a little bit older, they got me a boom box. You know, those boom box when you had to have like 15D batteries in there just to make it work. You know, those type of boom boxes. I had one, and I would sit in the back and I would just listen to radio, you know, by myself, or listen to a cassette by myself. You know, while they were doing, you know, while they were driving and doing their thing. So it was always part of me, you know, music wise. And
I, I
when
I
I
was
got
saying, I was saying that, of course, that was about boom boxes.
you know, we grew up in that era where that's what we had. We had boom boxes. You know, we didn't have, you know, MP3
Yeah,
players or things like that, or we didn't stream anything live. It was, you know, you know, you recorded off a cassette or you dubbed the cassette, and that's what you had. Or um I got a little bit older, and my parents they actually bought me a drum set, you know, because I wanted to
oh,
play music
wow.
so bad. So I played the drums as a little kid, and I really liked it. I mean, I felt bad for my parents 'cause I'm sure that, you know, I was making a lot of noise, and they, you know, they're upstairs and they could hear me just banging away. But they did that for me. And you know, I think that's I started really appreciating like beats and rhythm and melody, because I could keep up with a lot of the cassettes that I had that I would play to. After a
Mhm.
while, I could keep up, you know. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty interesting. Um, so that's kind of how I was introduced to music. And as I got a little bit older, I would go to my cousin's house a lot. And you know, they would always record cassettes, they record the radio, and they would listen to you know, they would like all of Chicago DJs in our uh, our era. We would all listen to the Hot Mix Five. So you know, we would go hang out with them, and we would listen to the Hot Mix Five. You know, we'd hang out in my cousin's car in the garage and just listen to the music. We wouldn't turn the car on, and we'd just sit there listening
Right.
to the mixes, draining the battery. You know, and then from there, it gravitated to the DJs that were were on 90.5. Were on the old WCYC, and you know, just listening to them. And um, I lived, I happened to live next to the Louis Segura, so it kind of all just kind of fell into place that, you know, the I was gonna become a DJ. You know, it kind of
Right.
just little by little. And yeah, once I decided that, hey, you know, I'm gonna give this a shot. Um, just started playing on Lewis's turntables, because Lewis is a little bit older than me. He's a couple years older than me. So when he was gone, I would go over there with I would hang out with his younger brothers. Well, they're like 2 years younger than me. So
Right.
you know,
Okay.
we started kind of DJing around the same time. So I would go over there, and we would play on his turntables, and we would play with some of his records, and kind of started picking it up little by little. So since he was a big new wave DJ and a big industrial DJ at the time, we kind of didn't want to mess with his records, the new wave part of his records, because that was, you know, his bread and butter. You know, we didn't want to mess that up. So we played with all his other records, and then we started, you know, we decided, his brothers and I decided, you know, we should start buying our own records and kind of, you know, start messing with
Well,
that stuff. So that
how old were you about at this time? How old were you?
uh, so I was about I had just turned 16 years old.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Lewis's younger brothers are about 2 years younger than me, so they were about 14 and 13.
Hmm.
Um, so so I had a car, and we would go, you know, to hot jams or to DJ music, or we would go up north to, you know, to hip house and stuff like that, and just pick up records. And you know, we didn't know what we were buying. We just, you know, they told us, hey, buy this, buy that, buy that. All right, cool. And we would go home and start playing on this stuff. And you know, all three of us, because his younger brothers, Gabriel and Octavio, I don't know if you guys know that they were the ones that were running 858. They were running the Green Dolphin.
Right.
We all, you know, we're all DJing together, and we all three of us kind of picked it up just naturally, kind of just, you know, we were we kind of figured out how to stay on beat right away. We kind of figured out how, okay, the breaks are here. We understood how music, you certain, after, so many beats, the music changes, and we kind of picked it up pretty quickly. So we started throwing our own parties so that we could DJ at them. We're 16 years old, man. We're just in the neighborhood hanging out, and we would throw parties throughout the neighborhood. And we started throwing parties at Lewis and Girl's house downstairs in the basement. We got to a point. It got to a point where we ended up hiring Bad Boy Bill to come out and play at their basement. And yeah, it's funny. He charges $350, and we went out. I was 16 years old. I signed the contract, and I had no business signing a contract at 16, but we did it anyway. And it kind of just was picking up, pretty quickly. And across the street lived a guy named Gelacio, and him and his brother, they were doing security at a lot of parties, that were, throughout they were going on throughout the city. They were called Twin Towers. They were called Twin Tower Security. And, we would all hang out and talk. And one day he's like, hey man, if you ever want to go to a party with us, you can, they might give you a hard time at the door. So wear one of our shirts that says Twin Tower Security. That way, nobody messes with you. And, all right, cool. So I went. And
so not to interrupt you, but Luis Segura just confirmed that you used to go in this room while he was out. Louis.
It was hilarious because we kind of had it to, we were actually kind of timing it, so we knew what time he would leave, what time he would come back. So like, okay, we have half hour, hurry up, jump in. So we all did that, and it was fun, man, because not only, he was on the radio, he was DJing all over the place, and we were like, oh my God, we're in his room and we're DJing off of his stuff, but we try to be as cautious as possible with his records, because like the new wave side and the industrial side, because we knew that's what he was at that time. Right. So we didn't want to scratch anything up. So but yeah, it was we would sneak in and play and then sneak right back out, and no one ever knew,
He never knew, right?
He never knew. We told him later,
How much later? I mean, what, like years?
I think it was a few years later till he figured it out that, hey man, the records aren't in the same spot as they were before. That's because we moved them around. Yeah.
So okay, so you're saying about the Twin Towers security.
So I went to a couple of the parties with them, and it kind of, I experienced that whole, wow, this is a nightclub, and these are the nightclub DJs. And
so was it a teen club, or was it a 21 and over club?
I would go to it started at 17 and over, and then a couple 21 and over parties. Okay. Just the fact that I was wearing a Twin Tower security, no one ever asked me, how old are you? No one ever bothered me. So this was the beginning of my senior year by the time I started going out with them and hanging out. And I fell in love with it, man. I really enjoyed it. And we would go to the record stores and buy the records and buy the mixtapes, but we also saw the flyers that they would have there. And I always thought, like, man, I would love to be on one of these flyers. I would love to just be able to perform at some of these places, So, I would create, a couple of, I would create demos, listen to them. No, I don't like it. I'll create another one. I wanted to give it to one of the promoters just to see if they could throw me on, one of the events. Right. So I made the best one that I thought was the best one, and I submitted it to one of the promoters. And this was September of '95. And we were leaving to Mexico, my parents and I, we were leaving to Mexico. And I wanted to give it to him right before we left, because, I wanted him to listen to it and then give it back to me, or let me know whether he can throw me on a flyer or not. So I don't know, back then we used to have like voicemails, those boxes, I guess they were called, those 906 numbers, 312-906, whatever. They were just like voicemails that people would hack and stuff like that. So we all had one. So I had one, and I told them, hey, listen to it and give me a message. Let me know if you.
Do you remember the promoter? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't want to say the promoter though.
Okay. All right.
But he listened to the mix while I was in Mexico, and then I came back and he sent me a message, and he basically told me, he's like, if you want to be on one of our flyers, you have to be there as good or better than our DJ. So I'm sorry, I can't throw you on. And that broke my heart, man, because you know
Oh,
I thought that
wow.
mix was actually pretty good. I think that mix was pretty good. I thought it was good. So you know, I said, all right, cool. You know, I'm gonna practice and I'm gonna submit another one. You know, um, so all this time I was going out with you know, with the guys across the street. You know, going to the different events and kind of just seeing what was going on, listening to the music, and he happened, Horacio from across the street happened to speak to Yayo, who at that time was throwing Tanya's. And he asked him, hey, you know, if you have an open slot, can you let Bobby play? And he's like, well, I never heard Bobby play. I don't know, you know, but if you say he's good, then I'll give him a shot and I'll let him play. You know, I'll let him play like the closing slot. Back then, usually you would play like 20 minutes to 30 minutes, you know. Um, so he offered me a slot, and I ended up my first night that I played for them was Holy Thursday of 1996. So it was like what, like April 3rd, April 4th of
That
1996.
was at Tanya's.
It was at Tanya's,
Okay.
and I that was the first time I was going to play at a you know, a quote unquote club, something that was totally different from the backyard parties that, you know, that we were throwing, or the basement
Right.
parties that we were throwing. So so I did my half hour set, and I remember I started off with She Has a Way. That was my opening record, and I did a pretty good job. You know, I thought I did pretty good. So afterwards, you know, they came out. They said, "Hey, man, you know, I liked your set and blah blah blah. You know, we'll throw you again. You know, one of these nights." And I said, "Yeah, sure. You know, thank you, and I appreciate that you gave me the time to play. And whenever you want me to play, I'll definitely come out and spin for you." So that was a Thursday, and that Saturday, which was 2 days later, there was an event. It was somewhere in Milwaukee. I think it was at the Polo Club. That same promoter that told me that I wasn't good enough was throwing a party, and I knew them. They somewhat knew me only because one of my best friends had happened to go to school with him, so he knew him, and you know, they, even though he kind of like asked him if he could listen to the mix and kind of give me the feedback, you know, he still told me the same thing, you know. So um, when we the next, you know, that Saturday we went to his event, you know, just to go hang out. Um, he came to me. He's like, "Hey, man, one of our DJs didn't show up. You think you could jump on and play for a little while?" I said, "Well, I don't have any records. I just showed up just to hang out." He's like, "No, we have records for you. You know, just play." I ended up playing for like an hour and a half, just banging them out. And he came to me afterwards. He's like, "You know what?" He goes, I'm gonna pay you for the night. Thank you very much." He's like, "You know what? You're actually better than I thought you were. So we're gonna throw you on a couple of our flyers." And after that, it felt like it just exploded after that. Like it just felt like it was gig after gig after gig after that. It just somehow it just grew, you know. It was just an amazing, you know,
Well,
I don't know if you,
maybe the fact that someone says the negative, maybe that was the inspiration you needed to say, you know what, I'm going to do that much better. Because you know, I mean, trust me, when I was working, when I perfect example, when Yo-Yo from Pyramid Azteca told me that I'll
yeah,
never make it in this business, you know, it drove me. It drove me to be better. To like,
yeah,
you know what, I'm going to show you wrong.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It you know, for lack of a better term, it lights a fire in their ass. You know, I'm sorry.
Yep, yep.
I hope it's okay if I swore, but you know, it does. You know, and you know, it pushes you, and you know, it's after that, you know. So this was April, right? The beginning of April. So it happened so quick that towards the end of the summer, I had already headlined a few events. Like it happened like that. And after that, it was just gig after gig. It was gig after gig. And I can tell you, like, it got to a point where I was doing, you know, so much, you know, for so many years.
So Bobby Martinez namesake was just
It,
all over the
it would
place.
just, it just exploded after that. Yeah.
Um, did you go into mixtapes about the same time? Did you go into
I made my first mixtape, which was Bobby's World, at about, it was 1999.
Okay, so it's a little after the explosion.
Little bit after that, you know, and uh, I wasn't. I knew that, you know, everybody was, you know, putting them out, and you know, it was just. I thought it was just so many
Right.
that were coming out at the same time. Like, you know, I was more concerned about, okay, so what is mine going to get lost in the shuffle? Is mine not going to get listened to? You know, it was more of that. But then I said, you know what, I'm going to do it, and that's when I released Bobby's World, and we I made about 2,000 copies initial order, and 2,000 copies sold in a couple of months. Like, bam, just sold. And I thought about making more. I said, you know what? I'll make it just as a limited edition. Let the crowd ask for more, and then we'll shift to a different mixtape. And about a year later, I released Beats Nonstop 1, and then I would say about a year later, I released Beats Nonstop 2.
Okay.
So those were the three that I did release.
Because I remember that, because I remember that's what I was going to say, because I remember Bobby's World. I think that was the first one that I remember. I think that's kind of, everybody kind of remembers that. There's iconic mixes that are out there, and I remember that. And did you do that? Was that live, or how did you come up with the?
I used a 4-track back then.
Okay.
I love playing on the 4-track. Well, I actually played on a reel-to-reel. I made edits and stuff because I got into music like pretty early, I think. So back then, that's how we edited music. And then I moved on to the 4-track, and that's when I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and release it. I like this mix, and let's go ahead and do it. I was with my parents. We went to Mexico one year. I think it was like the year before that. And they were promoting the cartoon Bobby's World. You know, that's when it was coming out. So everybody had Bobby's World. And we stopped at a Wendy's, and Wendy's was giving out toys that were Bobby's World themed, you know, because they were promoting the cartoon. And that particular toy had the packaging had Bobby printed on the packaging. So I looked at it, I said, you know what, I like this. I think I could use this, you know, somewhere in the future. Later on, I ended up using the artwork for the cassette that we released, and it just happened to just kind of fall into place, you know. And
so you wouldn't have that cassette around you right there.
you know, I'm actually what my office is now, what used to be my studio, and it's in my closet back there, because I actually have a walk-in closet back there.
Because
that's where I have all my records and everything back there. So it's in there. I don't, you know, it's one of those where I kind of don't want to touch it anymore.
Well, maybe I have it. Hold on. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe you do have
it. You know what? I do have it. I have it in a case with all the. Trust me, I got tons of and stuff like that. You know, just iconic mixtapes that everybody collected and stuff like that. And you know, it's just one of those. I know that was an iconic mixtape, and that's why I brought it up, because I remember. I'm sure there's a lot of people that remember that Bobby's World mixtape. That was like one of the, and that being your first one, that must have been pretty amazing for you. That
it was amazing, the fact that it sold so fast. 2,000 copies went like that quick, and to this day, people still ask me for it. You know, and I have one copy that's still sealed, that's in my closet, that I don't want to open because
it's sealed.
I think one of these days I might open it and just turn it into an MP3, you know, a 320 MP3, and release it. And you know, people really enjoyed it, so might as well just.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what I did is I did with my mixtapes, and I transferred them to YouTube. And I have it on YouTube. Let people enjoy it, you know. So, and
there's one CD that you have that you did, and it had like 5 or 6 different mixes on it. Like there were like 10-minute mixes or something like that.
Right.
And there was one, you know, one started off with it was like Suavemente and
right. That was Siempre Caliente. That was
okay. So I have that. I have that. You know, at some of the parties, whenever I would need to take a break, I would throw in your mix, and I'll be right back real quick.
Dude, so many. I'm at a party, and I hear the DJ, and trust me, I'm at a party that's not even Latino party, right? It's like a suburbs there's just a Greek family, an Arabic family, and I'm hearing
Yeah.
suavemente. I'm like, what the hell? And
Yeah.
I know right away the mix, or the Mas Caliente, the Dueño del
Yeah.
Swing. It was, to me, it's hilarious, but it was cool because it just tells me that
You
other
did a good
DJs,
job with it.
other DJs used it for like their wash and break. I mean, that was
Yeah.
kind of what,
Yeah.
or they can't do Latin mixes, so that was their break to do the Latin mix for them.
Yeah.
That was, and so I think that's where I was happy. You know what? Until the one day I went into a nightclub
And they played it?
at I think it was Flamingos.
Wow.
It was not Flamingos. God, where was that at? It was after Flamingos, whatever the club was after Flamingos and stuff like that. I was there, and it was Leon and Lewis's event, and I was there, and I'm saying, what the hell? Why is the guy making, like, and I knew the one mix after another, and I know they actually, it was just, Jesus Christ, man, they're playing my mix.
It's funny that you say that because a couple of times that I went into a flea market, and just they used to have like the mix shops there, and a couple of times I would hear some of my mixes being played, and they were mixes that were recorded and they were selling them. Like some of my mixes when I was playing for 90.5, they were recording and selling them. And I didn't mind it so much because the way I saw it was like, look, man, they're promoting me. Yeah, they're making their, whatever, however much they're making off of the cassette. But you know what? It was one of the mixes that I made for the radio. Yeah, they dubbed it and they sold it. But at the end of the day, my name is the one that's being promoted. So I took it just, all right, that's cool. I didn't make no big deal out of it.
So
That's
now,
pretty funny.
So now it's 1999, and you're coming out with the mixtapes. You're also getting booked all over the place. You didn't have a residency, right? It was just kind of being booked at a bunch of
Yeah.
parties, right? Correct. Are you doing any mobile gigs at this point?
I was doing mobile gigs.
Okay.
And I would come home, drop off the equipment. It'd be like 1 o'clock, and I'd rush to wherever I was playing, and I would do my club set.
Oh, wow.
So
So
I
you were
was
hustling.
I was hustling. I was DJing. Yeah.
That's on a Friday or Saturday, right? You'll be hustling.
Friday, Saturday night. But the funny thing is, I didn't even have turntables until I started playing for WCYC, or I was playing for WRTE 90.5 FM. So I was, I started DJing at clubs at 17, and I didn't get my, I didn't buy my first set of turntables until I was about 19, right before I turned 20. And they were turntables from the old my sister's house, which became 720.
Right.
They got rid of the turntables, and they asked who wanted them, and the security guards that were there were friends of mine, and they said, hey, do you want these turntables? They're selling them. I said, yeah, man, I'll take them. I didn't have turntables. I was DJing nightclubs already, and I still didn't have turntables. So I said, yeah, I'll take them, and that's where my first set of turntables came from. Actually, I have one of them up there because now this is my office. It's no longer my studio. But I keep one up there just to remember,
So Cheeseball's gonna be looking for that. and Wesley, they're gonna be like, oh, now we know where the
y'all can't get it, man. It's mine.
So that's a good history per se. A mark of history.
Yeah, I mean, it's it was interesting because since I didn't have turntables, I would practice over next door at Lewis's house, right, on his turntables, and it got to a point where sometimes I couldn't go over there, or you just didn't want to go over there and bother them or anything like that. My parents had one of those big towers with that old turntable, on top. So it was like the tape deck, the receiver, the tuner, and blah blah blah, and the amplifier for the big speakers, and they had the turntable on top. So I would go buy records and listen to them a few times, and then I would memorize them. I would memorize where the intros were, where the breaks were, and I would go out and DJ using those same records, only hearing them on the turntable and not even practicing them, practice blends and all that. Just, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot. I remember where the changes are, so let's give it a shot.
So you almost had a mental picture of the you know, but just hearing it, a mental picture of keeping it in your little library in your head.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
And you
and then,
know, the funny thing with that is that's how I would do with records. And then when CDs came out, the same thing happened because I was DJing at the Upstairs Club. That's it's out of be Wells Drive now, but back then it was on Congress. Well, it was called Congress. As soon as you came off 290 and turned into Congress, Upstairs Club was right on the left hand corner. So I was DJing there one night, and the DJ from downstairs didn't show up. So they had two floors upstairs. It was us playing, on turntables, blah blah blah, and the guys downstairs were playing on CDs. That's when they had first come out, the big boom of, the Spanish pop and Spanish rock, where everybody was back then playing on the Denon 2500F or something like that. So I never played on those, and the promoter came up and said, "Hey, the DJ didn't show up downstairs. You think you could run? I had just finished my set. You think you could run downstairs and do a quick set for us?" Yeah, sure, no problem. As we're walking down the stairs, he's like, "But it's on CDs and it's no turntables. CDs, I've never played on CDs before. How am I supposed to do that?" Like, "Oh, well, I'll show you real quick." And he kind of just talked me through it. And I did about an hour and a half set also with just CDs. First time I ever played on them, and it came out well. I think it did, pretty good. A couple weeks later, I was hanging out at Tequila's, and DJ Dinamico was playing at Tequila's, and he needed to take a break. He's like, "Hey man, I got some CDs. You think you could jump on?" All right. So I used his CDs, and I did a nice little set for him too.
all right, so you get thrown into these situations with no turntables or no, okay, but you're able to like, absorb it quickly.
It's one of those things that, once you kind of understand how music works, and you really focus on the counts, because the counts
Right.
really dictate how the music is changing. And once you listen to, a little bit of the beginning, you kind of can figure out, okay, it's going to change here, it's going to change there, and you're counting in your head. Sometimes you could catch me actually physically counting, or I'm tapping my foot, and then that's when I knew, okay, I'm going to change here, I'm going to change there, and
I
that's
think
how I do my blends.
I think the biggest challenge was to figure out how cue buttons worked on a particular, because cue buttons
Yes,
cue buttons
yes,
used to work differently on different
on different
players.
CD players, right,
Because you
right.
would hit the cue button and it would be just like, oh no, that's not the cue.
And then you figured it out like the first 5-10 minutes, and then later on you forgot in the middle of your set, like maybe like half hour later you forgot. Then you start playing. Oh crap! Like the song changed on me. How am I supposed to? And you have to figure it out right then and there, and because you're live, you can't just stop the
Right.
music.
Oh, it's flashing. Does that mean it's queued up? And it doesn't queue like
There are times, I would do one of these, and all right, let's go.
that I just remember that. I remember because I used to have the Pioneers, so it was a little bit easier. And then it was also because the Pioneer had that flat disc. I would sometimes like not cue it, but I would hold it and then go.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be my cue. Go. Okay, there we go, because it would just let it go.
Do you remember ever playing on Gemini turntables?
I used to have the Ken ones, and obviously the Techniques. Gemini's not too much. It was the belt-driven Kenwoods. that was
Yeah,
that was a yeah.
yeah. Kind of the same concept with when you're playing on Gemini. You had to like do one of these. Like it was so soft to the touch because they would bounce so much. You put a quarter on top of the needle, just on the actual head shell, to make sure that it didn't bounce on you. But still, you had to be really careful, and those were a pain in the ass to play on.
So okay, so now and that's what I was going to ask you, is that doing all this stuff, where was the Seguras? Were you also DJing with them, or there wasn't
Yeah,
just
we were
you
still
know?
DJing together, but it's we kind of just you're having a good time, throwing your events, throwing your parties, but you're still in school. You're still, you're still kids, and you're still trying to focus on what you're doing as
I'm talking about 99, 99.
99ers.
Yeah.
By then, they started throwing events here and there, and I would DJ for them.
Okay.
We kind of, I would always be one of their DJs. I was always DJing for them. And Gabriel Segura happened to be submitting mixes to the old 90.5. And he would hand in the weekly Friday night mixes, and there were guest mixes. So if one of the DJs didn't show up, or wasn't submitting a tape, because to submit a tape every single week, submit a mix every single week, it's tough, man. Especially, we're young kids, we're students, we're doing homework. Some have jobs. It's hard to commit to every single Friday. So sometimes, one of the DJs wasn't able to submit a mix, so that's when they would use the guest DJs. And Gabriel was submitting mixes for those slots in case someone missed. And then he's like, "Hey man, if you want to submit a couple mixes, I can submit them. And if someone misses, then they'll play your mix on the air." So that's how it kind of started when I was playing for 90.5. Kind of just, I would throw a guest mix in, and they wouldn't get used for like a month, and little by little, it just started becoming more regular, until one day, Speedy G, I submitted a mix, and by then I was playing more regularly for them, for 90.5. And I left the studio. I was walking out of the studio, and there was like a hallway to get to the other side of the building to walk down the stairs. And I'm almost to the stairs, and Speedy gets there. He's like, "Hey, stop, come here." And he's like, "How would you feel if we were to ask you to to become one of our resident DJs?" And God, to me, it was like, man, I grew up listening to the old WCYC mixes. Lewis was there, Gino was there. Yeah, definitely, I'll definitely become one of the regulars. And I started submitting weekly mixes, and then they said, why don't you try to if you're up for it, why don't you try to actually get a show, your own show? But to do that, I had to go through the classes, through the non-commercial broadcasting license.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, I'll definitely take the class. By then, I was already submitting weekly mixes. I was already a weekly DJ for them, and I took the classes and I passed the test, and I ended up with my own radio show. So I had a radio show on Thursdays called The Music Box. And then I had a general show on Sundays, we would just play regular music. But on the Music Box, I was playing, and this was 99, 2000. I had just turned 20 years old. And I was playing a lot of the club music that I was DJing out at night. Our show was from 10 to midnight, and then I would leave there and go DJ wherever I had to be at, and at that time I started getting booked a lot at Richie's on the south side. So I would leave there, and if I wasn't at Richie's, I was somewhere else. But it was easier for me to get to Richie's, and whenever they would offer me, definitely let's go that way. And yeah, that's how I ended up at 90.5. Just submitting guest mixes, and it would get used every so often to more regularly to Speedy asking if I wanted to be part of the team. And then,
so how did we meet?
You and I?
Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking about that today. How the hell did we meet? All I remember is that one time I had a night off, so I went to Tropicana to catch the fights. You remember you guys had the Tuesday night fights?
Yeah, my creation.
That was you.
Yeah.
And I remember we were sitting front row. It was me and a couple guys, and we all put our money together. I mean, we were broke. We were young kids. We all put our money together, and we bought a bottle just so we could sit front row. And
in the VIP section in the front?
In the little section right in front of the ring.
Right, because that's where Martin Boogeyman was always at.
No, I wasn't at Martin Boogeyman's level. No, I wasn't there. No. Not yet anyway.
Okay.
But we were there, and I just heard we got DJ Bobby Martinez in the house, and I looked on like, who the hell said that? And I looked up, and it was you. And that's my earliest memory that I have of you. That's I don't know. It was a lot of wild nights back then.
That was about 92, 93. I mean, that was that was about that time. And I think it was only because I could have swore that you were brought over to Tropicana, but it was Palladium upstairs. With Dynamico.
Okay.
So I never had you for the open DJ night. Did you ever play for me on open DJ night for?
I started playing at Palladium. I was 18 years old the first time I played at Palladium. So after that, I started playing regularly there. So it might
Was
have
that
been
was that Rocco Mix that had it, or was it me that had it?
Rocco Mix because I played for
Right, because
Rocco Mix
Rocco
quite a
Mix
bit.
had it before me, and then I took it over after Rocco Mix. But that was what Cuatro Fantásticos.
Yeah,
That was the whole thing. And I could have swore I had you because I mean a lot of DJs came into the door.
came in and out.
But that was, with Mr. Wonderful, Chicago, just everybody, Fuego and stuff like that. And it was a mixture.
You know what? Now it might have been you. I mean, I know for sure I played for Rocco Mix. I played for Rocco Mix a lot. So,
Okay.
but I might have. I think I might have played for you also, because I somewhat remember us talking about finances. um, and this was a little bit after that. So I we had talked and you said, I remember you from this night, from that night. So it might have been, I might have done a guest DJ for you for free and,
Well, the open DJ night was, we gave every DJ like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to play whatever they wanted to play. Generally, what happened is we had a group of maybe 6 DJs come in,
Mhm.
and then we say, okay, it's open DJ night, and we announce it. Okay, 3 DJs are going to go on for this hour. Then
You might play, you might not. Yeah.
no. We guarantee that it was the 6 DJs a night, and I did the open DJ night. I think quite a lot, and I remember it was, like if we had 6 DJs, let's say you were a house DJ, right? If you did or the dance music, and then there was another DJ that would have the cumbia, and another DJ that did the Latin or something like that. I would like, okay, you know what? You go first, you go second, and goes third. Okay, and then that's where we would play, and then we would have our guys play for about an hour. The same thing, kind of three of the guys, and then we have the next 3 guys. What are the guest DJs? So I remember we didn't pay anybody. It was just to get exposure for that particular call. But what happened is then it was like between the 4 guys, meaning Alex Perez, Viento, Fernando, and me, we would talk about, man, this guy really was good. Let's talk. And that's how we got Eclipse. That's how we got Marshall, Sombra, Dinamico, Ricky Aguijita, Fuego, you name it. We started getting all these guys because we were like, oh my God, they and to play in front of 1,800 people, it's
amazing. Yeah.
but
I remember playing I remember playing with Aguijita, playing with Sombra, like we were like young kids, all playing together. So I do remember a little bit later, when you became Cuatro Fantastic, when you were like, that was your big thing. I played for you for a good while, Saturday nights. I remember because I had a hard time parking in the parking lot, and you would always take care of us for that, for the extra, for whatever they would charge us. But it was more about, there was always a big line trying to get in, that especially when you're rushing from other clubs and you're trying to, because you're on in like 15 minutes, like you got to hurry up. So somebody smarted me up and they told me, hey, you know what, if you can park in the back, go through the alley, and there's like a little section behind the building. A couple of us DJs know about it, so it's either whoever gets here first takes the spot.
Yeah.
So I ended up catching that spot a few times, or not. I had to go through that. There was like right across the street. There was like a little alleyway, like a little. I don't know. Right in front of the parking.
Hot dog stand.
Yes. Yeah. So you would go through that little alley, and then there was a street right there. So as soon as you go through the alley, it was a residential street.
Yeah.
Find a quick parking spot. But I remember somebody got robbed. One of the DJs got robbed right outside of there. And that's I decided, no, I'm never gonna park there again.
Yeah,
so I
think it was underneath the viaduct per se.
Yeah. So I would park by the White Castle side. If I couldn't find behind the building, I would try to park by the White Castle side, right? It was like, so if you're coming out of Palladium or Tropicana, it was on your left hand side.
Right. I remember it was those were exciting times. You know.
Oh, they were great. It was amazing playing at Tropicana because it was like one of those places where, you know, it was a huge nightlife. Like that place was always packed and everyone looked so. It felt like you were in the nightclub where like Tony Montana, like the what's that movie?
It's about Scarface.
Scarface. That scene where he goes into the club and you know all the lights are. That's how Tropicana
Right.
felt to me. Just felt, wow, this is a huge bright nightclub. It was amazing. So
Well,
you always
if
felt good playing there.
well, because there was two sections to it. There was the Tropicana, and
Yeah.
then where the Tuesday in the boxing one, and
Mm-hmm.
there was Palladium upstairs. Like
Playing
later
upstairs.
on,
Yeah.
called OK Corral, or
Yeah.
it was the Club PM, and it was just I just remember when I have the funniest story is that I used to have a bunch of DJs used to look over the railing on the top floor. Remember, if they had that little
Yeah.
railing,
Yeah.
you would watch girls come up the stairs. And one particular DJ, I'm not going to mention whose name it was, he was gawking at a girl coming up, and I went behind him. I seen him, and I go, "Hey!" And then, I pull back, and he's like,
Whoa.
he's like, thanks. Hey, maybe she'll come talk to you.
Yeah, maybe.
And she walked up the stairs and she goes, "Jerk." I said, "Oh, and then maybe not." So, I mean, that was the things that we upstairs. But what the advantage that we had upstairs compared to downstairs. Downstairs had that look, like you said, about the Tony Montana type of thing, and
Yeah.
then boom, and it was like, wow, this was good. But when you went upstairs, you really never seen a crowd until you had to go inside the club and you walk to the left or the right, and then you would see the like, wow, and that we had the 1,800 people upstairs in that room. And that was, and that's why I think they call it Palladium, because it was a remnants of the clubs in Acapulco. There was that kind of that look.
Yeah.
Because it was that, and honestly, if you ever go to to Acapulco, they have a club called Palladium out there. It's like huge and stuff like that. And it's big room, stage, and you could, I think we could fit 3,000 people in that space up there, or jam them in there at 3,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that was kind of our average, 1,800 people upstairs.
Yeah.
And then, then we had the main room, and then we had the basement as well. So that was, you could come up and down the stairs all you want. That was the best part about it, because you got to experience it all, everything. So that was, but I remember you DJing for us for a bit. But if I were not mistaken, you mentioned something, and I think that's why we stopped working together, because you had the time constrictions. You were being booked elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened is
that's exactly what happened.
If you can't make it, then, I got to get someone who can be here. And if you can't, and of course, me and you talked about it. And he says, "Nah, it wouldn't be fair, if I'm," and I think because you ran late a couple of times, or, like more than, and it was like, "No, I can't do it. It's just too much."
And it was just the fact that sometimes your set ended up a little bit later than it should have, and by the time just getting back and forth, and it's one of the things when you're playing 2-3 places in one night, it's hard to get everywhere. But it was always a good time, man. It was always that rush of trying to get from one place to another was part of the night, part of the adventure of the night, But definitely. I definitely remember. I remember going up upstairs at Palladium when you would walk up the big stairs, and there was like a little box office right there, kind of like the ticket where you would hand in the tickets, and then you'd make that turn, and then that's when it just started opening up, and bam, that you were in Palladium. And I remember Palladium just being dark and just the neon lights and good times, man. Good times back then.
Very good times. So much history back there.
Yeah.
So now we're in 2004, 5. What happens with you as far as with you in the industry?
So I was going back and forth, just bouncing around, just like I said, I was DJing at that time. I was DJing a lot. So I was DJing, pretty much Tuesday through Sunday, 2 to 3 places in one night. and I was working full time. I was going to school full time, and it was just a big thing. You know, it was just trying to manage everything together. The Seguras started throwing Green Dolphin.
Mhm.
So then I became a resident at Green Dolphin. I was also a resident at 720. And then I would just kind of try to before 720 first, and then moved
Right, right. That
into
was
Green Dolphin.
720, 721, right? That was, I
So
think,
yeah, I was
21.
I was I was playing for Dinamico. He's the
All
one
right,
that hired me to play Saturday nights for him.
okay.
And then I remember there were times when I would play at Voyeur, which was down the street. It was that the one that was on right on Ohio, like right when you came off the expressway.
Correct, correct, correct.
Um, so I would do a set at 720 and just grab my records and walk over to Voyeur, drop a set there, and then walk back and then drop another set at 720. And I did that a lot. I did that back and forth. I think Rick Guerrero was there a few times when I was playing there.
Okay.
So that moved into the Green Dolphin phase, and then I just kept getting booked, you know, a lot of guest spots, and then just the residencies were, you know, 720 were Green Dolphin. Some I ended up at do you remember the Orbit, which was like a big
Milwaukee?
Milwaukee was just like a hall where they had events
Right,
like weddings,
right.
stuff like that.
That was on Milwaukee and Central Park.
So I did a lot of there Saturday nights. I would play there and then head my way back and forth. It was funny because I used to joke around that, you know, at I was there so many times at Orbit for different promoters. They should just had a bed in the back for me because I was just there so much. I would
You're gonna
mess with
have
those
a
guys.
bed. You're gonna have a bed with the ghost at the Orbit?
You know what? To this day I've only seen one ghost in my life, so I don't think it'll scare me much. But that one ghost still did scare the bejesus out of me, though.
Because I remember they used to talk about the ghost
Yeah.
and true story. I have a meeting there. This is after Danny Eclipse had started with me, and I went in to talk to the owner, and it was, I think, an old Greek guy. I think that owner
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So he was, and I was talking, and I could see the ghost, and I says, and I talking to the guy, and I could see him over the corner of my eye, and I go, yeah. He says, I heard stories, but I didn't know it. He says, does this ghost bother anybody here? You know, he just walks around. He just, you know, I'm like, oh. And somebody asked me, I remember, and this was the time when I was working over at Cuatro Fantásticos, and he says, oh, well, did you see him? I says, no, I could see him standing there right now. I see him standing there, but it's like, if I look in that direction, you can't see him. But if I'm looking at you and I can see him in the corner, there's an old man, like there's an old man standing over there.
Yeah.
And I go, he's there. He says, he's there. But I guess that was the stories where the lights get put on in the middle of the night. They shut off all the lights, you know, or they're about to leave and they're like closing all the lights off. Then this old man is turning back on the lights. That's kind of what he was, a little mischievous. That's what, but it wasn't like no
cause
horror
havoc
story.
or anything. Yeah. You know, I DJ'd a couple of times at Excalibur, and I remember them always telling me that, hey man, this place is haunted, man. While you're DJing, it messes with you and stuff like that. Like, but
I never got to see that one. I never got to see that
one. I didn't either, but I would just hear the stories, and they would try to mess with me while I was DJing, try to, you know, guys just busting balls, you know, just good times.
Yeah, I was like, no, I've never seen it. As many times as I've been like over there, like I never seen it or anything like that. So you worked for Green Dolphin, because I remember they were there a lot. I remember your namesake on the flyers and the promotion and marketing stuff like that. And then Green Dolphin, Louis Segura or the Segura brothers, they were there. Gabriel, he was headed into 2001 or 2002. That's
somewhere
when
around
he
there.
stopped.
Somewhere around there. Yeah,
and,
somewhere around
then
there.
Then what happened after that with you? Where did you end up going?
I just kept getting guest spots. So I just kept being booked for for guest spots, and it was just so consistent that it felt like, you know, it didn't really So it was one of those where you felt like you were a resident at different places, but you weren't because you were just bouncing around so much. Like I was up and down Milwaukee, I was up and down Lake Street, I was up north by Sangria in that area. What was that place that was right across the street from Joe's on Wheat Street? The Joe's on Wheat Street now, Zentra.
Yeah,
Think that's what it's called.
that's right, exactly.
I was
Zentra.
playing there. Just a lot of the promoters I can't recall by name and but just always bouncing back and forth, and it was just here there. A lot. I played a lot for Luis Ramirez and what's his name? Luis Ramirez and
You talking about
partner?
Leon?
Leon and
Or
Luis.
Ziggy?
Leon and Luis and Ziggy. For Ziggy, I used to play a lot at the Royale, whatever it was called. I played a lot for him there on Friday nights or Saturday nights.
Right.
Nights. And I'd just be somewhere, head out to play for Ziggy for a while, and then head back onto wherever I was playing. But it was more that I was guest spots everywhere without officially having a residency. You know what I mean? Kind of hard to explain. With one of those whereas I wasn't part of the crew. I wasn't part of like, you're part of my team. I'm hiring you as a special guest DJ for the night. I think I lost you there, but yeah. So just year after year after year, that's kind of how it just went, just bouncing back and forth.
I says you're not.
What's up, Prieto? How's it going? So it just.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear. No, it's fine.
I says you're not married to anybody, so you don't get divorced to anybody. So that's a good thing.
It was just, the nightlife was just part of, it was just who I was. I played a lot of Red Dog, which was a lot of fun. I played Divine up north. Just week after week, it was just different places, and it felt like, one of those where it was just a flash, just things just happened so fast. Yeah, and but I blinked and it was 22 years later. Oh, I think we lost Prieto there. There you go.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I guess when my phone rang and knocked out everything, so it's like, so. All right, so this is coming up to 2010-ish.
Hello?
Where you going to your, I said, what did you do with in about 2010? Where did you go?
Well, 2010, I was still in school. I was working full time, going to school, and I think at that time I was playing. I was playing right off of Ohio. God, I can't remember the name of the club. So it was right behind the Express. So you got off of Ohio. So I was playing for Cinco Network. By then I was already playing for Cinco Network. I had just started with them, and it was it was right. God, I can't remember the name of that club. So it was like a Mexican restaurant during the day.
Yeah, I remember. I can't think of it because I know Rick Mangram did a salsa night there.
Okay, well. So by then I had just started with them, and I started playing there for them on Saturday nights, and again, just guesting every the other different nights. But that was I was regularly there, and I wasn't an official member, but I was just there regularly. And then from there, I think I moved on to Republic, and I was there for a good while.
Working with Edgar Martin and Cheeseball and them.
It was with Cinco Network and Cheeseball. I believe.
Yeah,
Chico
okay.
was involved in it. And then from there, I moved there, and I was
Okay.
there for a while. And then after that, I think I moved to started doing like 10 doors after that. So that's the years kind of progressed, and I ended up like at 10 doors towards the end.
Okay. Where do you, and probably in the last 5 years, where were you in this? I mean, other than saying that you privately retired, or privately, uh, were you doing more just guest spotting as well, or were still doing the mobile stuff?
I was always doing mobile stuff. So mobile stuff
Okay.
was always part of, you know, people, because I was playing for 90.5, and then from there I left 90.5, and then a couple years later, I joined La Calle. Well, back then it was Viva,
Okay.
and from Viva it turned to La Calle, and I was there for about 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Um, I was there for a long time, but a lot of people, I was getting hired because of, people would hear me out in the clubs, but also people would hear me on the radio. So a lot of people would hire me, you know, um, for weddings and for quinceañeras. I have a funny story. I remember one time I, um, I got hired to do a wedding at the Sears Tower. Uh, Back then, I think it was still called the Sears Tower before they changed the name to the Willis Tower, but I still call it Sears Tower. But I was playing, I forgot what floor it was, but I was DJing there, and the groom, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna book you for 1 hour, and this is the contract, this is what we're gonna go with. But I want you to announce that you're DJ Bobby Martinez from La Calle, okay, or Viva, whatever the station I was at. And so I started, because when you're doing like a mobile gig, you don't really announce that you're so and so name, or if you're from so and so spot. You just kind of just, because the night is not about you. The night is about whatever the event
That,
is.
correct, correct, correct.
So I was DJing, and he's like, no, 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 I want you to do your drops from the radio. So I did my drops, and my hour is about to end. Hey, can you stay for another hour? I'm gonna pay you this amount for the next hour. Like, all right, man. Ended up, I almost played like 4 or 5 hours. Like, I just kept going and going. I mean, I would take little bathroom breaks here and there, but it felt like it was like he just kept wanting to me say that I was Bobby Martinez from La Calle, and that I was there, pretty much. And hey, man,
So,
if you want me there, then I'm gonna keep going. Yeah, sure.
hey, you're gonna pay me? I mean, that's yeah, yeah. So I mean, I mean, it's good and stuff like that. So let's to present time. You said you're. What are you doing now that you kind of step back? What are you doing now?
I'm a software developer.
Okay.
That's my main career. And when I was in school and I was getting close to graduating. Um, that's I talked to my wife, and I said, I think I'm gonna start slowing down, just because the classes are getting harder, and I need to really focus on what I'm doing. And one thing I love about my wife is that she was always, from the beginning, she always said, hey, look, you decide whenever you want to stop. It's up to you. You were Bobby Martinez when I met you. You've always, been this persona, from nightclubs to radio. That that's something that I'm. It's up to you. It's your decision, whatever you decide. So once I graduated, I it was in the back of my mind. I think I'm getting closer to just calling it a day. Only because it was such a grueling schedule for so many years that it was
Right.
it was tough, and I really wanted to focus on my career, my career as a developer. And one day, I was DJing, and there was a big snowstorm, and it took me like 2.5 hours to get home, and it should have only taken me like 20 minutes. And by then I was already pretty much saying, okay, it's almost time. And that night I came home, and I fell asleep. And in the morning when I woke up, I said, hey, we need to talk. And I pulled her off to the side, and I said, hey, look, that's it. I'm done. I'm just gonna finish out the rest of my dates, and I still had like maybe like 2 months, of bookings to go, and
Right.
and then I wrapped those up, and then I said, that's it, I'm done. And
So, being a software developer, you're doing a lot of stuff online though, right? You're still doing a
yeah,
lot of things. So with this pandemic hitting, you're basically, you're okay. I mean, you're working,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Luckily we're still working, and we're still working a lot. And that's a
Good.
point because we're working from home, so you're working a lot more hours than normal, and I finish up late at night, and I just take a shower, hang out with my kids for a
Right.
little bit and go to sleep and call it a
So
day.
you're not doing any mixing online, no live stream or anything like that.
No, you know what? I'm really enjoying the mixes that are by the DJs
Okay.
that are playing online. So I'm really enjoying that, and I'm sitting back and just listening, and I'm having a good time with that. You know, so
I hope you got to see some of my shows as
I have,
well.
I have, I have, I have, and I really have to applaud you for what you're doing, because this is a really cool concept. A lot of DJs that people hear and people see, like on stage or on the radio or stuff like that, but they don't know anything about them, or they don't, we're real people
Right.
too,
No, and that,
and you get to know them, you get to know, what real life is like, and we're DJs, man. We're no one really understands what goes on behind the scenes, all the prep work, all the editing, all the um, everything that goes into what you're gonna do for that week or for that night.
the grind.
The grind, yeah, exactly. I
I mean,
remember, I was when I was playing at 720, when I was playing for Dynamico at 720, one of the nights that I was playing there, um, I was still playing on vinyl, and one of the grounds had a short in it, so it made like a nasty noise in the speakers, because you hear that, yeah, that nasty. So the owner
uh,
the owner the owner was pissed, and he said, "You know what? That's it. Next week, no more turntables." So I had all my music on records on vinyl. So what am I gonna do now? So a friend of mine, DJ Mago, he had purchased a CD burner, so you could feed the audio into the CD, and it's recording. So I used to play fast. So I used to play, because back in the day when I was younger, um, there were like 10, 15 DJs per event, So you had to play fast. You had to play quick, because say I play a couple of tracks at 6 minutes, my set's over after that four songs, So you got
right,
used to
right.
playing really fast. So when I started recording my records onto CD, I figured out that, okay, it takes a little bit of time for the CD to come in and load and read the tracks, and then you're able to play. So I didn't want to waste so much time, because I was so used to mixing super fast. Because I would buy doubles of everything and just go from one piece to the other piece, from the beginning to the end, and just kind of make my own remix on the fly. Um, so I thought, well, if I can just do those edits and record those edits live, so that when I'm playing them, it's already my edit, right? So that I don't have to waste time trying to load those. They were still the same way I would normally DJ on vinyl, but I was just recording them on my version onto CD.
Right.
So in a week, I recorded maybe like enough to do like 3-4 sets, and then the next week I just kept going and going and going, and I was just doing my own edits until a friend of mine was working, for the radio station Super Estrella, which was up on the south side, like 60th and Pulaski. He had a Soundforge, like Soundforge 3.0 or 3.5 or something, and he gave me the software. Like, all right, so I installed the software. I had just purchased a computer, not too far, around that time. So I started playing with the software, and he was showing me, like, look, you start making edits here, start making edits there. So I realized, okay, so if I could just make my edits on the computer and kind of just set them up to be my version, so that when I play, I don't have to waste time doing all this. I can just, now it's done on the computer, done professional, done right. Um, so I started doing my own edits, and then just I kept upgrading sound for the next version of sound for next version of software. So I spent
Right.
the rest from then on. I just was making my own edits and play my own versions.
So they were Bobby edits, not Bobby's World anymore.
They were Bobby Martinez edits. Not so long ago, in one of the DJ forums that I belong to, they were I don't know if you remember back in the day, records were, it was hard to find, certain tracks because we were buying vinyl. We weren't, going online and searching for certain songs. We had to go to the record stores and actually buy the songs. So a lot of DJs would cover the label that was the on the record, so no one would see what you were playing, because if you were exclusive, you had certain songs, then you would get booked based off the music that you had.
Right.
So I remember him, they were saying, DJs would cover that, and to me, I thought it was funny because I remember that, so he's like, and I told him, hey, that's not something I did. And his response was, yeah, but you never released any of your edits to us, so you're pretty much part of the problem too. Like, wait, what did I do? But they were my edits, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not that
you
I
did
didn't.
you did all the work.
It's not that I didn't want to share them. It was more of the fact that, you know what, I spent till 4 or 5 in the morning, and then still go to work, and then still go to school, and still do homework. So just, they were, I worked hard for those edits, and then, just they're me, those are the versions that separate me, that it's me, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right. And then nobody faults you. I mean, and every a lot of people they're lazy. They want the easy way, to get
Yeah.
easy and stuff like that. And that's not being selfish.
Oh,
That's just go ahead.
it's just, yeah, exactly what you're saying. I remember when I was working for you, you would give us acapellas sometimes when someone would send you acapellas, you would give them to us, and you would always call out remix, because you knew that we were going to take that and then do our own versions,
Right.
and create our own versions, and like Eclipse was big on that, man. Eclipse was
I
big on that.
know. I'm very big.
I don't know how. If I thought I worked hard, that guy worked even harder, because he ended up becoming a doctor, and and how he found the time to do all that, and then video editing, he still found the time to do that. There's just
Yep,
certain guys that just,
and that's a whole different world of video
it's a whole
editing.
different animal, man. That's a whole different animal.
Trust me, I started doing video editing, and to do one song take 4 hours. So just one song,
Right?
I was like, oh no, this is too much. I don't want, it's cool when it's said and accomplished, and I'm sure that with your editing, it's cool, and everybody's with the wow but man, it's just like I
All
don't
the
got
work
enough.
that goes, yeah.
I don't
All the
got
work
enough
that
time
goes
in
on
the
in the
day.
background. Exactly. Exactly.
I'll be stuck here for ever. So,
But you know what? All that work, and then hearing your version live in front of a crowd of 1,000 people, and everyone's jamming and rocking, like that's that's,
I know.
if you feel good, especially if you blend into it and you hear that roar of the crowd, like you hear that, you know what I mean? And it feels like it hits you in the chest, man. Something I was trying to explain to my wife, that how it just, you feel that roar and it hits you,
Almost
it's a rush, man.
right. It almost makes you want to come out of retirement, man.
We'll see what happens, but
Well, I know it's coming down to the end time. Any last words you want to say to anybody as far as for your people are listening, everybody that tuned in today for you,
yeah,
Bobby?
I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for the love and support that I received over the years. It was, I did 22 years straight nonstop, and it felt like you guys were there, through every step of the way. There were so many nights that, after a long night, you go home, and it's a lonely walk back to your car, but you remember, like, everyone that was supporting you, a lot of faces that to this day, still, I see, here and there, hey, you're Bobby Martinez. Hey, man, I saw you play here. I saw you play there. I want to say thank you to everybody that always showed me love and support. It's one thing that I can never, I feel like I can never pay back, for supporting me for so long, for so many years. I want to say thank you.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate you, Bobby, coming out. This is the Front Door Show. This is what we do every day, 8 o'clock. And this is Bobby Martinez. And stay online, Bobby. I'm going to sign out. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.